Ukrainian officials say humanitarian conditions in the city of Mariupol are getting worse under the current Russian occupation, and people there are at risk of diseases like cholera. The exiled deputy mayor of the southern port city says bodies are still being discovered in the ruins. There's a shortage of doctors, and food and water are in short supply. Our correspondent Nick Beek, who's in Kiev, has been monitoring the situation in Mariupol.
Well, it's really desperate if you listen to some of the people we've been speaking to today. There was one woman who we managed to make contact with, and she explained that her mother left the city about a week ago, and she left behind a city of corpses. She said that she had friends who had died there, and they simply weren't being buried. This is a place where medicine's in very short supply. A lot of doctors and nurses are not able to treat people, and also linked to this warning we hear today about a possible widespread cholera outbreak. Getting running water is really difficult, and that is said to be because a lot of the pipes have been hit by the intense Russian shelling. So it's a really bleak picture that's painted of life in the city. About 100,000 people are said to remain there. And of course, the accusation levelled at the Russians is that they've come in and they now cannot provide just the most basic of services to the Ukrainian people. And of course, these are people the Russians claim they've come in to liberate and make their lives better.
Nick Beek there. Well, of course, we've been hearing about the deteriorating health conditions in Ukraine, but also raising concerns about the humanitarian situation is UNICEF, which says that 2/3 of children in the country have been displaced by fighting. Afshan Khan is UNICEF's regional director in Ukraine and joins me now from Kiev. Thanks for talking to us. What is the picture there at the moment in terms of the children and the way that they're being affected?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to join you. I think when we look at the 2/3 of the children that are displaced either inside or outside the country, we're seeing very severe signs of trauma, children who need psychosocial support and care. UNICEF has activated what are called SPINLO centers to be able to help triage children, provide some psychosocial support and care, and make sure at least there's some support to parents as well on how to protect their own children from the trauma that many women are feeling themselves. I think your correspondent spoke to the situation in Mariupol. We do recognize that an access for humanitarian agencies, both in the east of Ukraine, around the line of contact, has been very difficult. We're currently using what's called a rapid response mechanism to be able to reach those families that are most in need along the line of contact. We've been able to reach 100 families in shelters, 100 shelters with families currently taking refuge. But the situation is very, very grim. Parts of the country we're seeing are getting some sense of normalcy with returns. And I think that's where we can perhaps scale up, try and work on some learning opportunities and some type of normalcy for children, so at least they feel there's a more protective environment as they've faced incredible suffering over the last 100 days.
And is it known how many children have been injured or have lost their lives in the last few weeks and months?
We know that there's verified data where 272 children killed and 439 injured. We understand that numbers will be far larger. This is what we're able to verify now. And at least 290 attacks on healthcare facilities, and 1 in 6 schools, safe schools, are either damaged or destroyed. So in order to rebuild a new life for children here, it's going to take a tremendous investment and a series of partnerships, but what children need most and most urgently is peace.
And in terms of helping those children that have fled their homes or are living outside Ukraine, if any families are watching, is there anything that they can do specifically to help, mothers, friends, people who just want to support those refugee families? Is it just a question of just being as warm and supportive and listening to them as much as possible?
I think first is shelter. That's a very real need for most families. The second is just providing listening, care, support, understanding, and then where there needs to be a referral, making sure that there's clear referral to psychosocial services if needed.
And are you able to give that to people in Ukraine at the moment? Or are you mostly trying to give that to people who've left the country?
It's mainly people who've left the country. Inside Ukraine, we have these small centers that can provide some support, but the kind of trauma support that may be needed is far beyond existing capacity or reach. We're working very closely with the government of Ukraine to identify psychologists and caregivers. We've got some online systems going, which can help for women and mothers. But clearly for children, it's that face-to-face use of art therapy, use of contact, high touch, and clearly creating a safe space, which is what these Spinlow centers are, for children to get a respite from what has been a brutal war.
Very, very important work that you're doing. Afshan Khan with UNICEF, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.